Do you guys?
Oh, yes.
Order. That meeting is a hearing of the Board of Education of Bennington Public Schools. This is a hearing for student fee policy, parental involvement policy, and public hearing policy, bullying policy. That hearing is conducted under the provision of the Open Meetings Act of the state of Nebraska. We'll go through each one of those items, and as we go through each item, there will be a bit of information to present, and then I will call for anyone who wishes to speak on that topic to come forward. So with that, our first item is regarding student fees and student fee policy. Dr. Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. As the notes suggest, we have three different balances. As of the beginning of 9/21, we had a balance of 26,000 and change. Student fees collected almost 6,000 the past year and expended 17.5 of that. Therefore, it leaves us a balance of 15,247.48 at this point in time. The fee structure was approved by the Board of Education in June, and those have been printed and they're in student handbooks. So all three, elementary, middle school, and high school, all have printed fees that are in, again, the student handbooks. That's all the information on student fees.
Thank you, Dr. Hawk. I call any member of the public who wishes to speak on the student fee policy to come forward at this time. Hearing none, we'll move to the parental involvement policy. Dr. Hawk.
Parental involvement policy has not changed for several years. It is required by law to be reviewed every year and a hearing conducted for such. I conclude at this point in time.
I am aware of a couple of members of the public who would like to speak on the parental involvement policy. Kathy Poche, I would invite you. Just again, as a reminder to the general public, the way our public comment works is you have 5 minutes to address the board with your thoughts. The board typically won't engage in questions or discussion. We do that so that we can adhere to the provisions of the open meetings policy, not open topics that aren't previously published on the agenda, and make sure that everybody has kind of an equal and fair time to present. So if I need to give you a reminder on time, I'll do it in a friendly manner. So
Okay.
Kathy,
Thank you. Thank you. I wrote out my comments, so I will just try to read them quickly here. So I am here to raise my concerns about what I see to be as violations of the parental involvement policy and multiple other policies for that matter. I and other parents have attempted to obtain instructional training materials and school curriculum that Bennington paid for with tax dollars. Earlier this year, the school contracted with Equity Nerd, and they are like a cultural diversity and training organization. So training was suspended after there was negative feedback and comments from teachers. We reached out through public records requests. We asked for copies of the contract, which I have provided over there. The contract does not appear to be fully executed. It was signed apparently by Dr. Matt Blokenkamp, but it does not appear to have been signed by Marty and Chantel, who provided the training. So that's one issue. It was paid for with taxpayer dollars. And we want to see the content because of the complaints from the teachers. And we've been told it's copyrighted material. We don't believe that copyright covers that because we don't want to see it for commercial purposes. We want to see it because we are concerned parents who paid for that training. We believe not having access to that training is in violation of the parental involvement policy regarding reviewing curriculum materials upon request. There was material provided in digital format to teachers as well as students via video and website prompts, we believe. We believe this also violates the multicultural education policy, as well as the pilot projects policy, potentially 603.05. So after I was asked by parents to help them look into this, I went and looked at the backgrounds of the trainers, and I could immediately see why the teachers potentially were concerned about this equity training. I've provided, later on you can look at social media posts by these ladies. They talk about, one of them, Marty, talks about how she has 2 teenagers who are looking at college and neither wants anything to do with Nebraska because the Board of Regents was trying to get rid of critical race theory training. Another post from Marty talks about Nebraska needs sex education. And, you know, someone's personal beliefs in their own time is fine, but when teachers start complaining that there is controversial material going into training, going into Bennington curriculum, not reviewed and approved by parents, that's when we have a problem and we need to come together as a community. And then lastly, I'll just quickly read Chantal Mallory's post back in June of 2020 on Facebook during July 4th. She says, I see the firework tents going up and I hope y'all keep that money in your pockets, in your household, in the bank, in Black-owned businesses, and in the Black Lives Matter movement only. I pray that coming off of a wonderful Juneteenth, you realize that July 4th, as our ancestors were yet enslaved, murdered, tortured, etc., I repeat, this is not our day of independence. So school curriculum states that it must be taught that America is a great place. It's a place where people are free in their education and career pursuits. And this is not what Bennington teaches. And last of all, in closing, I believe that this all relates to second step. the curriculum that they are proposing to bring in, or they are bringing into Bennington this fall. I and another parent went and reviewed the 6th grade material and the 8th grade material in the school. We found some concerning overtures of critical race theory, gender ideology, things that parents should be involved in reviewing before it was approved. One of them is 8th grade activity. It says, stand up for change, choose a disruption strategy, and decide how you'll put your strategy into action. I just don't know what a disruption strategy is. And if I were a teacher, I don't know what I would exactly do with that. And there were other things, like in the 6th grade, they were showing, a Black Lives Matter protest during the videos they showed to kids. They were showing that a goal besides getting an A on your test, there was another goal of become employed at a social justice organization. I don't know what 6th graders would need to think about that at this time in regards to what all the other careers that are out there. Why Second Step would point them to, hey, look into working at a social justice organization. It's just, there's a lot in there, and there's a lot of supplemental materials on the Second Step website that really gives teachers a lot of leeway to push an agenda if they want to push agendas on children.
Without your time, I invite you to share a concluding thought.
Yeah, so that's all. I just wanted to point that out, and that's it.
Thank you, Kenny.
I'd also like to speak on this issue. I filled out a paper for the regular meeting, but I didn't on this particular issue. Do you need a second sheet filled out, or?
If you would prefer to speak at this time, you certainly may.
Oh, well, I'll speak at both.
If it's relevant to the parental involvement policy, you're certainly welcome.
Yeah, I'll talk about this, and then during the regular meeting, I'll discuss my other issue. As far as the parental involvement,
Could you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You are.
Tracy Baker.
Thanks, Tracy.
You bet. I was the other parent that was with Kathy in reviewing the Second Step curriculum for the fact that she stated it is such a controversial curriculum, and the fact that parents are only able to review the curriculum at school. I don't know about anybody else, but I have 10 days PTO. I would literally have to clear out my PTO to do what I feel is your job, which should be looking through curriculum, as controversial as this is. That if this type of curriculum is going to be implemented, then weekend and evening hours should be made available for parents to come up to review curriculum as they so need to.
Thank you, Tracy. Chris Boucher, I invite you up.
So do I get my full 5 minutes, or did my wife take half of mine?
The public considers you distinct individuals, so
Okay.
have your own time.
All right. So, my name is Chris Boucher. I am here to talk about the parental involvement policy. One thing that stood out to me is in the welcoming message on the Bennington website, that the administration welcomes, everyone here, that it's the reason we're such a great school is because of the great teachers, great board, and the involvement with parents. And, I'm just not seeing it. The school board meeting that happened a couple of months ago, we were told that there were 23 people that reviewed this program, yet none of them were parents. Parents weren't involved with this at all. The parents have been left out on any information that was presented in that board meeting was such a high level overview of SEL and Second Step. And when we were told that there was going to be a follow-up presentation to the parents on Second Step, I thought, okay, well, here we go. We're going to really get to dive into this. There was a single laptop with a screen that was meant for like kindergarten or first grade that said Second Step. And we were told during that board meeting that it was gonna be an interactive, type of web app that you could go in, you could explore and see what it was all about. That just wasn't the case. There was no place to go. There was nothing to click on. It was a couple of really high-level slides with, a couple of statements, but they were very general. And what I would like to do with the parental involvement policy or goodwill is I would like to see a public forum where parents can come up and talk to the board, ask questions, and vice versa, and have it be a interaction as opposed to what it is today. Today, parents are coming up and they are voicing their concerns. School board says thank you, they walk away, and that's the last we hear of it. With 23 people reviewing, they said 36 programs, SEL programs. My wife and I and her friends went in and reviewed one part of one grade and took all day. And for these 23 teachers to review 36 programs, I just don't find that that's very likely that that happened. And why can't parents be involved with something like that if it's going to be such a controversial subject? Why does it have to be so, under the covers? So that's my request from the board, is that we take a look at doing a public forum, because this is only going to grow, guys. It's just going to keep festering as more people learn about what second step is, how harmful it is. One of the administration said that gender identity teaching is coming in the spring. At least they were trying for that. And from my accounts, when you hear that the board is trying to do something, it means they've already decided on it and it's happening. So I would like to see a public forum before that happens, so we can maybe try and iron some of this out, maybe come to a conclusion together as the board and parents together, maybe work out an alternative, figure out a way to back out of this thing, whatever it takes, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Chris, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak regarding the parental involvement policy? Then we'll move to the bullying policy. Dr. Hogg.
Yes, thank you very much. Again, state law requires the Board of Education to host a hearing. The board looks at this policy every year, bullying prevention, and there are educational steps that we are required to conduct in school. And this policy, again, has not changed in several years.
Is there anybody who wishes to speak? Yeah, anybody in the public who wishes to speak on the bullying policy? Hearing none, and since these items will be on the regular agenda for the board meeting, and the board will have opportunity to discuss at that time, the public hearing is for the public's benefit to express their thoughts. So hearing and seeing no one else who wishes to present or address the board, we'll go ahead and close the hearing at 6:17. And we will proceed directly then into calling the regular meeting to order at, let's call it 6:18. Again, this meeting is conducted under the provision of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act. And as always, we start our meeting with public forum. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board in public forum this evening? Tracy? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll admit what I've written up is just on the fly today. And quickly, I'm tired of having to be here. I will say just my thoughts on driving here. I miss the days. Granted, I'm old, but my mom, I was going to junior high and they wanted to put me in low math, and my mom, they were just tested badly. And she went up there and to the junior high and said, you're not going to put her in the low math class. And sure enough, they listened to feedback from a parent and put me in the high math class. And a month in, of being in that class, not only did, was it the high math, but then they even split us into two. And where did I end up? The high math class. And I ended up going into mathematics. So I miss the days of just school districts and teachers and administration listening to parents. Otherwise, I'm here to discuss my concerns regarding the second step curriculum. I will say too, you probably may remember that I homeschooled last year. My daughter is talking about wanting to go back this year in the 6th grade. And then when I see stuff like this, I pray that she doesn't want to, because I'm having no part of this. After reviewing the 6th grade curriculum, for second step, I liken it to forced group therapy with unqualified therapists. Has any member of the school board actually reviewed the contents of the curriculum for any grade level? Or are you just taking what was provided as bullet points in the main meeting as to what this curriculum includes and involves? While reviewing the contents of the 6th grade curriculum, there were many alarming factors to me. Number one, most of the supposed peers in the videos were not of the same age. Number two, the goals discussed by these peers were not actual goals applicable, I feel, to any 11 or 12-year-old. And thirdly, and most importantly, inappropriate discussions on content that included discussions on dating. I'm not aware of any 11 or 12-year-old within my daughter's friend circle that is allowed to date at this time, so not sure how that's applicable to them. Video clips, including that of a Black Lives Matter protest, and goals that included working for a social justice organization. When you look at the other organizations behind Second Step, including Committee for Children and Learning for Justice, these are organizations that support and discuss controversial topics, including social justice. I believe every American already has equal rights and opportunities for equal economic, political, and social rights. Pulling a controversial topic such as this into a classroom where not everyone's beliefs are aligned is wrong. You will not make or tell my child she is privileged because she is white. According to policy 603.02 curriculum adoption point 4, the procedures for selecting instructional materials shall reflect the following philosophy. Point number 4, to provide materials on opposing sides of controversial issues so that young citizens may develop under guidance the practice of critical thinking and analysis. So how are teachers going to address any questions on the issues of so-called social justice? What other side are they going to present to students when questions on this topic arise? Also curious to know, according to school policy 603.04 curriculum evaluation, it states, the board shall review the student's performance on standardized tests, courses, and other indicators of student achievement deemed relevant by the board as a guideline for the evidence of the curriculum. So how is the board evaluating this curriculum? Because according to what I know, there are no tests, there are no scores. So what are you doing to evaluate it? How are you determining whether it's effective? Regardless of these questions, the fact that school districts have been able to get second step pulled from their curriculum due to controversial content, I implore each of the board members to take a deep dive into what this curriculum is. It does not represent appropriate content and thoughts and opinions of all of those within the district, and I will not allow my daughter to be a part of it. I mean, I'll conclude, people. All you need to do is Google second steps, controversy, and pull up the articles that tell you what is in this curriculum, and it is not appropriate for children.
Thank you, Tracy. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board in public forum this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll proceed then with our regular agenda. First item is the consent agenda, which includes the approval of this evening's agenda, minutes from our last regular meeting on June 13th, July bills, as well as resignations and hires. Allison, who had reviewed this evening for bills?
Tim and I have review of bills. Do you want to?
I'm just saying, there's some very large numbers in this time, and kind of makes your head spin. Computers, 242, almost 243,000 in computers, another 150.
I think a majority of those are for the opening of the new schools.
Yes,
and we don't
correct,
pay for
correct.
those out of bond funds, which I think is critical for the public to understand.
Can you tell me again what Kapara is about?
Apara is a software that is used for students, teachers to monitor what the students are working on at that time, as well as being able to share a document with every student in the classroom at the same time.
Well, they'll have their Chromebooks out,
Yep.
they can see if they're surfing the internet or
Okay.
something.
Thank you.
We use that in second grade through 12th grade.
The other items I mentioned, we have security and wireless for the new schools. We have Chromebooks for our incoming 6th and 9th graders, which I think the board's aware of that we do that for 6th and 9th graders. Some new teacher computers, and generally just the supplies for the new buildings, it adds up, so. Any other questions from board members?
Is there a payment for prairie construction on the list?
There it is.
I would like to remove that for separate consideration.
That's fine. Anything up to anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think, just sort of, okay, yeah, the Washington County Treasurer, can you tell me what the election costs are about? What's that?
Really, yes, the primary, every entity does have to pay for those costs.
Okay.
So that we pay for our share of that for board election.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Allison. Is there a second?
I will second.
And again, I would remind the board that this is for the items listed on the consent agenda, absent the item for prairie construction. Jody, please call the roll.
Tim,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
Consent agenda is approved. Now we do have an item that was removed for separate consideration, that is payment for prairie construction. I would entertain a motion to approve that payment.
So moved.
Thank you, Allison. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Valerie. I requested this payment be removed for separate consideration because the elementary school project is behind schedule. So that was my reasoning for considering it separately. Any other questions or discussion on this topic?
And technically, the payment is for services that have been rendered, and so technically they have provided those services, they're just behind schedule.
There, thank you. That's a good clarification. These are progress payments, so work has been completed.
Correct.
Any other questions or discussion? Jody, please call the roll.
Tim,
No.
Valerie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Mark,
No.
Allison.
Yes.
Motion carries. Now we'll move to our reports for this evening. July is usually a time when we have an abbreviated administrator report. Well, I thank the administrators who are present this evening for attending. Our practice in July is to basically field questions from the board as they review those reports. So regarding elementary, middle school, high school, student services, curriculum and instruction, any questions from the board on those reports? Dr. Hawk, I would invite you on the superintendent report to give any highlights you would like to.
Excuse me. We do have growth in the community and growth in the district right now. One of the things that we're seeing is that we have over 4,000 students already registered. We're looking at about 4,090, currently at 4,014. There are a couple of factors in that. One is the kindergarten numbers, and that is related to, I think, a correlation to the birth rate in Douglas County. Birth rate in Douglas County has been declining. We have to look 5 years back for kindergarten at this point in time. But we also have, sometimes those are new family members, new families to the community, and traditionally they have been slow in registering. So we anticipate that 4014 will increase as we move forward. Also, Douglas County Sheriff Department will be out and reviewing the buildings for safety reasons as we move forward.
Any questions for Dr. Hawk?
I guess a question on the deputy sheriff, so
Sorry.
that's fantastic, but, are all of our security measures in place and everything is, nobody can enter the school without
There are equipment and there are people, right? So there are policies that are in place that everybody must be buzzed in or allowed into the building at a certain time. Now, that is when school is in session. There is equipment, cameras, buzzers, activity cards or access cards as we have here. Those are in place. However, a door can be opened, a piece of equipment can break. And so we do have a school resource officer, that's one for 8 buildings, and typically we house that person at the high school. So I want to make sure that I answer your question correctly, in that we do have procedures and equipment in place.
That's what I'm trying to make sure of, just the doors themselves, when you're walking in, you can't just walk in the door when school is in progress.
That's correct.
Thank you.
We'll proceed now to committee reports. I don't believe the curriculum and instruction committee's met. Building and finance has met a couple of times on matters that are before the board in new business this evening, so we'll address them there. And then from a policy committee standpoint, this is the season when legislative changes to policy tend to come forward. So we have the hearings on policies from earlier this evening that are presented, and then the policy committee will have some work to do over the next month or two on reviewing policies. We have some this evening. We'll have some in August as well, just from those legislative changes. So on to the construction report. Mr. Burt, do you have an update for us this evening?
I do. Good evening. For the construction report, we are in the process of finalizing and closing up the middle school and elementary number 5 project, or Structure Park. At the middle school, I was at both today. We're working on the final grading and sod install. They're working on some corridor flooring, as well as the athletic flooring, painting, getting everything ready for, at this point in time, we're doing final punch list, going through, making sure everything meets our contract documents. As you see, band bulk areas are being done. That's going to be, we're looking to have all of our punch lists done in the next 2 weeks, and the contractor will continue to fix things as we go. Elementary number 5, I was there this evening. They were still working when I left at 5, but they were finishing up on putting in hanging clouds or ceilings in the breezeway addition, flooring in the administration. Verco, or basically the district's furniture company, had put everything in the gym. They were getting ready to break those down, put them in the classroom. Classroom wing is complete. It's being cleaned right now so that it can be punch listed and a good review of the project. The high school improvements, as you can see, punch list of the building is complete. The contractor is now working on those. Plaza and the concrete has been changed out. They're currently working on a little more of that. The road project from the middle school to the elementary school is working on, they were pouring at 5 o'clock tonight when I was there, some of the islands in the middle. Again, the road is still closed. It doesn't look like it. The cones are down. A lot of people are driving through, but it is closed, but it will be available. We're working on getting the certificate of occupancy from the city. That's a different one for the review of the roads. And buildings are set up to have all the building inspectors, fire marshals, everything. They've already been through a lot of it. They're giving us our final approval in the next 2 weeks. Any questions?
What's the timeline on the elementary number 5? Is that the date still the end of July here?
The date is currently at the end of July. That is what we believe we're going to hit. I need to own up to the fact that I have given a little bit of miscommunication before. Picked the wrong date there. But we are working currently to have all the certificate occupancies done by the end of the month. We're working with the district right now, like I said, moving in all furniture and for teachers to move in right after the first month in August. Prairie Construction has been notified that there is potential for liquidated damages. We sent them out a formal letter, reviewing it with the district's legal counsel as well.
Thank
Just so everybody knows, when was the date supposed to be?
The original contracted date for Prairie construction was April 4th.
Any other questions for Mr. Bird? Sir?
Thank you very much.
Customarily, we would have a coordinator report, spotlight report, strategic planning update as yes?
We do have an update on the work for high school too.
Oh,
We would like to run through with the Board of Education.
sure.
So this should,
Shooting technically on construction report then?
we are so.
Okay.
So I have to be a little stronger to pull that up.
It's
Okay, so since the board last met, can you hear me?
Sorry.
Okay. Since the board last met, we've had 2 workshops with the community groups and board members, part of that, teachers, as well as parents in the district. And so we're going to share with you what we've learned. We'll stop here. Right there. As we design the high school, we have developed with that group a vision for the high school. So we see a safe, innovative, forward-thinking learning environment that celebrates our community, provides flexible and adaptable spaces to stimulate collaboration, inspire creativity, and support our diverse group of all educators and learners. And the next one. From a goal standpoint, we want the space to be creative and inspiring, focus on community, culture, and innovation, diverse and inclusive, and focus on a variety and flexibility. These are our guiding principles to help us make design decisions as we go through the project, focusing specifically on the high school itself. To move on, the first workshop that we did, you can see some pictures. We're going to focus on the learning suite. So one thing that we learned when we interviewed the teachers in December was how the building, the current high school, was added onto multiple times. So thinking holistically about that. And so we're looking at the learning suites themselves. So again, 3 or 6 teams, actually 3 with the learning suites. And each group created basically a learning suite for 500 kids, looking at all the different types of classrooms. And we documented the pros and cons, you can continue through these, of potential learning suites for the high school. As we analyze those learning suites, you can go to the next slide, we learned some consistent themes we will incorporate into the new building. Focusing on having science on the upper level for ease of, it's more cost effective, they have the ability to be departmental in nature, looking at centralized stairs so student movement is easy, as well as distributing the learning comments, so the breakout spaces for students. And the ability to be departmental in nature as well as interdisciplinary. So providing for future flexibility in the learning suites is important. And then providing a place for teacher collaboration and storage on each level of the learning suite. So this is a concept that was shared on the 30th of the learning suite. Again, very early, you can see it's hand sketched. After we presented this, everyone at the group wrote their pros and cons again. We're all about getting feedback, so we're reviewing those, and it will continue to evolve. These are pictures looking at the overall designing of the building as a whole. So adjacencies of the gym, to the fields, the learning suites themselves. Continue on. So we looked at 3 different sites, developed 3 different plans, and each site had 2 teams that designed the building, and as the field that supported. We evaluated the pros and cons of each. We had people vote on what they liked and didn't like. You can continue. We're not going to go through all of the pros and cons of each individual site, because we know obviously there's not a site selected. So we're trying to understand the consistent, meaning that picture was going to end up. Trying to find consistencies in what the community that took part in it and the teachers were looking for. So things that we learned from all of the sites is that be careful with the parking so that all different activities have ease of access, but if it's stretched out, we don't want the students walking too far to the building. So how you balance the parking on site is gonna be important. Zoning of the building for public use after hours, so you can lock down the academic wing, but still have access to only the gym or only the auditorium from a security standpoint was important. The adjacency of the fields for both athletics and music. As you know, band goes to the field often as much, so making sure that they both have equal access. Special education, looking at how that is infused into the core body of the learning suites themselves. If there is the young adults program, having that have its own dedicated entrance in addition was important as well. And then when it comes to field orientations, having softball and soccer, or softball and baseball have the same orientations from an equity standpoint. So those were consistent themes. After the last workshop, our team with the other group got together and we tried to combine the likes and dislikes of the different sites that we analyzed. We actually developed 2 different sites because one of the sites was pulled away. So you can see the hand sketches of how the gym and the auditorium open up to the commons, the blue thing in the middle, and then those little bars of the learning suites. So looking holistically at how the building can function and work together. You can go ahead, this is a lower level, so you can see how you have access to the fields on the north. And the next one is the upper level. So it is gonna be a top loading gym, which is a desired piece. The academic wing will likely be 2 stories. Once you get this large of a high school, having it be all on one floor really creates challenges for travel from a distance standpoint. So it's a lot more efficient to be a single story. So again, you can see the next one. This is the west side. Our team looked at that and continued to iterate on opportunities for that site. You'll see some things are consistent and some things are different. And so when we presented this on the 30th, we received the pros and cons again, and we are looking at how we marry all of those pros and cons together once we get a finalized site. So we'll continue to update the board, and you'll continue to see it evolve over time, but that's a quick update on the overall high school product thus far. Any questions from the board?
You did very well. What I'm whispering over here is we want to include the dates for public forums.
Okay.
And the public forums are July 19th. You have the newsletter, thank you.
21st. July 19th, Tuesday, Thursday, July 21st, and Monday, July 25th, from 6 to 7:30 in the high school.
Thank you. And the public is invited. Parents, non-parents, community members, all are invited. And that newsletter should be out in the mail today. It should be in mailboxes today over the next 2 to 3 days.
Customarily, we also record one, if not all of those sessions. And so if you're not able to attend the public forum, you can still avail yourself of the information in it from the website posting that will come.
Correct.
True? Good.
That's true.
Good. Are there any other items on the construction report this evening before I proceed?
Also, a phone survey. Again, a whisper from the other side. Dr. Hovey has reminded me that we do have a phone survey that's going out. It will not go to all. This is a sample size. So we sent out Friday notes to look for a specific phone number. And you may or may not receive that in the community. But if you do, please participate on that phone survey.
And the idea is to gather information about what the public would like to be included in the bond. We have not decided on anything yet.
Nothing has been decided at this point in time.
And I just had one reflection. I really appreciate the update and the ongoing work of the committee and the facilitation that you're providing to invite that feedback. And just something that jumped out to me that I feel really grateful about is the careful way that the committee is clearly thinking about our diverse learners and being very inclusive in the ways that we think about designing our buildings, so it is a welcoming place for all. And that was something you illuminated or that I saw when I was here, and I really appreciate just all of the good work that we're doing to facilitate that input and feedback. Thanks for that.
That's it.
Thank you. We will move again to old business here, as we have no coordinator, spotlight, report, strategic planning update. I don't believe we have any construction change orders.
We do not at this meeting, that is correct.
So on to summer maintenance and repairs. I do not see Mr. Edens. Dr. Hawk, you?
Yes, Mr. Eames, I'm sure, is moving boxes at this point in time. We, as you heard, we do have furniture in both the middle school and the elementary. And along with that will be teacher supplies that go into that. So we do have the 7 people that are hired over the summer. They're doing landscaping, they're doing painting, a lot of mowing. As we fortunately had some rain, not enough, I'm sure, but it does green the grass, and we continue to go with that. Are there any items that I can answer your question on in terms of the summer report?
Just to express our thanks to Mr. Edens. I know his schedule's been very tight this summer, hoping to buildings. Been challenging to say the least.
And it will continue to get tighter here in the next 4 weeks.
Thank you, Dr. Hogg. Moving on to new business, our first item is an action regarding a property site sale and infrastructure reimbursement agreement related to property on the side of the middle school and high school, the middle school and elementary school, Stratford Elementary. The board may recall that this site was the first that we developed on our own without developers, and so we were responsible for certain roads and sewer, and knew that we would have opportunity in the future as developers became interested in the site to recover some of those costs. So Dr. Hawk, could you provide an update?
Correct. There are 4 highlighted in green sites that administration is proposing to sell to Celebrity Homes. Celebrity Homes will use that for development. What that also does is create a touch point with Celebrity Homes in the sharing of roads and sewer. So as you look at that, you can see where the 4 different sites are. For the sale of land, this is roughly 5.1 acres at approximately $50,000 per acre. We are looking at sewer going across 171st Street. There is no lands that touch Woodney Street, and so that cost is absorbed by the district themselves. And then there is sewer line that runs from 171st out to 168th Street. The reimbursement, let me get out of this, is for the land. It is for roads, which is estimated to be anywhere from $75 to $90 per linear foot. And the sewer estimate, which is anywhere from $400 a linear foot. And so that is the recouping the amount of money that Celebrity Homes has agreed to pay the school district for this land and reimbursement of roads and utilities.
And these lands are adjacent to existing Celebrity development, is that correct?
Yes, my apologies. Yes, the Celebrity Stratford West will be, these lands will connect to Stratford West, to the west of the 2 school sites.
You mentioned the sale of the land was at $50,000 an acre. Can you remind us what the acquisition cost was of that?
The acquisition anywhere from going south to north was $32,000 to $45,000.
Thank you. I move that the board approves the Celebrity Homes property site sale and infrastructure reimbursement agreement, copy of which is incorporated herein by this reference, and further authorize the president of the board and the superintendent to execute all documents and take all actions necessary to complete the terms of such agreement.
Second.
Thank you, Allison. Any further questions or discussion on this topic?
The numbers on my sheet don't match what's up there, I guess I'm just asking.
What are we looking at?
The numbers on the screen are slightly higher than the board notes.
The road reimbursement and sewer reimbursement numbers are slightly different.
My apologies, there was a renegotiation at the 11th hour to add money from Celebrity to the district. For the sewer, I thought I put that in there, for the sewer from 171st Street to 168th Street. The sewer had to be increased from 8 inches to 10 inches. And so that cost was incorporated and absorbed by sewer funds, roughly about $57,000.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cock, and was to the one bonus point for Tim this evening.
Good.
Any further questions?
Just for the board's benefit, we did discuss retaining those lands and whether that makes sense on a future going forward basis and within usable lands, and we decided no for these particular parcels. They're next to the road and they're adjacent to the Celebrity's existing development, so. Thanks.
Hearing no further discussion, Jody, please call the roll.
Allison?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, that motion carries. Our next item of business is discussion and action regarding Morgan Ridge property site purchase and sale agreement for the purchase of property on the intersection of 156th and what will be Rainwood Road.
That is correct. It's a fence row at this point in time. But Rainwood Road extends from the corner of Military 168 to the entrance, as many people will see it, off 156th and Heritage. And so this land sits approximately a quarter of a mile to the west of 156th Street. So this is the reverse, where you're sharing in the cost of the land, and the grading package will be done on a joint venture. So anytime you do something on a larger scale, the cost per cubic yard is less. And the same is true with special assessments. Now there is an in lieu, and that is when they put these developments together, they do it on a per lot basis, and they figure out what the taxes will be to put that infrastructure together. So this land will be approximately 36 to 39 lots in general. They figure out what it is per lot, and it started at approximately $890,000. We've moved it down to 675 because the district will be putting in a playground that will be used by that community. We're not going to fence it off and use it just for school. And we have some other amenities that will be a part of that school. In addition to that, there's also I won't call it naming rights, but I'll use that in simplicity of communication, in that when we have a policy, the naming of the subdivision is also the name of the school. It makes it easier for people to find. So as they start to advertise for homes in this area, I'm sure, as other developers have, used Bennington Public Schools and the name of the school in advertising for homes in that area. So with that, we've kind of deducted that in lieu down from approximately 890 to 675. This would be an agreement to purchase these lands and to put a possible school site at this area. And show you where that is at this point in time.
And the land
School-
cost is the same as the cost.
The land cost is the same as what the developer paid, $38,000 per acre. So the school site, as you can see it, the contours are right in here. This is the school. Running over here is 156th Street. This is the current farm that will be in that area. Which kind of gives you, right across the street is the fire station.
For clarification, this would be a site for elementary 6, which is one of the items contemplated for the next bond issue.
That's exactly right. If we take a look at the 2-mile corridor between 156, 168, and State Street and Bennington Road, we know that there are currently 244 homes in that mile by 2 mile. There are projected to be 2,100 additional lots, all of which are platted, that we heard from our joint meeting with the city. All are on some phase of either attempting grading, finishing up, or finishing plat work. So this area, in the administration's opinion, will need another elementary in the very near future.
Entertain a motion?
I so move that the board approves the land company property site purchase and sale agreement, a copy of which is incorporated herein by this reference, and further authorize the president of the board and the superintendent to execute all documents and take all actions necessary to complete the terms of such agreement.
Second.
Thank you, Tim, and a second from Valerie. Questions or further discussion on this topic? Jody, please call the roll.
Valerie? Yes. Kara?
Yes.
Heather? Yes. Mark?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Motion carries. Now we'll proceed to a discussion and potential action on the authorization of general obligation bond series 2022 bonds, which would be related to construction already in progress.
That is correct. Not only construction in progress, but lands. If the community remembers, in 2018, we asked the community to set aside monies out of that bond issue, $36 million, for elementary site 6. In 2020, we asked the community to set aside monies for elementary site 7 and high school site 2. So we have, by the permission of the community, monies set aside for land. I would ask Mr. Leffler to come forward at this point in time. Of the $72 million that was approved in 2020, we have a little over $8 million left that we need to issue. And he'll talk a little bit in general about that.
2 meetings in a row. I hope
There
you
we
brought
go.
your punch card, Bruce.
There we go. Evening, I guess, instead of, I guess I don't have time. Regardless, I can speak loud enough. What you have here is
Sorry,
a.
Mr. Leffler, you may be able to speak loud enough in this room, but not for our audience. that's
Oh, there we
watching
go, I'm sorry.
at home.
You're, and all those ships at sea. I think I can. Right, thank you very much. All right, my apologies. As we've done in the past, this will be the last piece of the $72 million bond authorization from the voters of 2020, correct?
Yes.
20 vote, right. So this is the last piece. The district has already, reading through the bond documents, to date, an aggregate amount of $61,870,000 has been issued for the project. Very briefly, I'll go back and talk about some of those bonds sold at premium so that it produced more than 100% of the amount of bonds that we sold. So what is left to be done is a little right at $8 million plus or minus. What we will do is, depending upon the final pricing of the bonds, we will move the principal amount. So when at the end of the day, the district will have received in construction proceeds from all the bond issues on the $72 million, they will have received $72 million worth of project funds to spend on the project. So again, we'll be making some minor adjustments to that. As we've done in the past, this particular resolution sets in parameters for the issuance of bonds that will be not to exceed $8.1 million, that the final maturity won't exceed 2014, that the final interest rate, true interest cost should not exceed 4.5%. Again, if we were in the market today, I think we're looking at an interest rate that we wouldn't cross our fingers too badly for, but we think we'd be right about 4% on given the interest rates in today's environment. I will say that, in the past, I think our memories get fairly short, but I mean, the district has 3 bond issues outstanding from 16, 18, and 19, I think, that were all done in that range of about 3.5%. we just got used to interest rates being substantially lower over the last number of years, so. I guess we're not necessarily looking at fire burning us down, but reality is, we still have to finish up some conversations with the rating agency to get confirmation of the district's outstanding rating on the bonds, which will ultimately produce a lower, interest rate than having bonds non-rated. And we anticipate that we'll be complete with that and be looking to market these bonds within 10 days to 2 weeks. With proceeds to be on hand within 30 days following that. The resolution authorizes the board president and or superintendent to sign off on the final terms when we get to that point without having to come back to the board for another authorization. It's out there to see if there's any questions.
And I would say that we do not, we're not in any concern at this point in time for finishing out the construction with the monies that we have in that account at this point. These are for future and land in particular.
If the board would be willing to make an interest rate call on bonds, you're more than willing
You could confidently make that guess, and I might have a different job.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Leffler, thank you.
All right,
I move to approve the resolution as presented to issue general obligation school building bonds series 2022 in the principal amount not to exceed $8,100,000.
I'll second.
Thank you, Karen. Is there further discussion on this topic? Jody, please call the roll.
Allison?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. We will proceed now to first several policy actions. I guess the no action on this first one, but a first reading of several policies. Dr. Rock, could you recap those policy changes?
There are several. You have a note in particularly this first agenda item. As you can see, passage of LB 83 created several changes to how one can post agenda, post minutes, things of that nature. So that certainly encompasses most of the first three. There are some changes with budget, and you'll see those this year in terms of a joint meeting in the county, and then a postcard that will go out to all box holders related to budget. And then the last are construction, and then there is again statute. There is a limit or a ceiling, whichever way you want to look at that the district must submit 3 bids to the board, must go out and solicit. That dollar amount has moved from $100,000 to $118,902, and it has moved from $100,000 to $109,000 in 90204. There are 3 additional virtual conferencing and what a public governing body like yourself can do. Vacation, this is a Department of Labor, and it explains what is done with those that do not use their vacation in a given year. And then seizure, safety, school, and that's related to LB 639. Are there any questions related to the policies that are proposed for change? This is the first reading by policy. It takes 2 board readings, and so we will come with a motion in August.
Are there any questions from the board at this time on any of the policies presented? I would note just procedurally, item D under new business was for policies seeking revisions. The item E was for additional policies, which Dr. Hawk covered at the end of his update, I believe.
Yes, my apologies.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't skip anything and we were clear on how we covered those. So with that, we'll move to a discussion and potential action on the new state mileage reimbursement rate.
It is by policy that the board does approve the mileage rate. It was notified to state agencies, the public school is one of those, that it's moved from 58.5 to 62 and 62.50, 62.5. Motion is before.
I move to adopt the state mileage rate for district reimbursement at 0.625 cents per mile as set forth by the state of Nebraska.
I'll second.
Thank you, Valerie. Second by Kara. Discussion. Jody, please call the roll.
Kara?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, we'll discuss and take action on short and long-term substitute rates.
The district takes a survey of area schools, Douglas, Sarpy County, as well as those in Washington and Cass. And as you can see, the average for 22-23, there's two districts that have not reported, is at or under what we are currently paying. Therefore, we recommend no change to the long or short-term substitute rates. The board does set such at each annually. Therefore, there is a motion to certify the rate of pay as is.
Thank you, Dr. Bach.
I move to maintain the 2022-23 short-term certified substitute rate of pay at $165 per day and long-term certified substitute rate of pay at $180 per day after 10 consecutive days of substituting by the same teacher.
Thank you, Valerie. I will second that. Discussion?
Okay, I don't know if this is the right place for it or not, but, so this just came to my mind when we were looking at the vacation policy and also the substitute teacher policy, and you can pause me and we can get to it another day, but, I'm curious about how we pay teachers vacation time. And because what I think I understand is they get a per diem that's based on their salary, and that per diem does not equal, like substitute teachers would get paid more than the teacher's salary. So for example, it would be, instead of the teacher showing up every day, it would be more advantageous, let's say, for a teacher just to take the days off because their per diem isn't going to come close to like what a substitute teacher gets paid. So if a teacher needs a mental health day or a family getaway, the likelihood of them saying, you know, I'll stick it out, or the likelihood of them saying, oh, I'll just take my time because it's not going to cash out to what I don't even get paid as much as a substitute teacher kind of thing. So I'm curious about how that all works. And again, we don't need to necessarily answer it now, but both of those things hit me at the same time, so.
Well, I think it's important that we do answer that because a teacher that's under contract is under contract for 186 days. And all of those teachers certified. Now, there are other teachers that may be on extended contract. There are administrators that are paid on a different contract. But certificated teachers, as you're talking about, are paid out on a per diem basis. They're paid more than the substitute teacher rate. So they receive 12 days a year. Now, if they don't use all 12 of those days, up to 10 of those can be added to the next year. So let's say a teacher comes in year 2, they use 2 days. So they carry over 10. They're now at 22 days. If they were to take all 22 of those days on a personal leave or illness, they would be paid at their contract rate, which is more than the substitute teacher rate. Even a first-year teacher is around $250 a day. A person that is on the other end of the scale, because it's about double from what you are at the beginning, would be double that on a daily rate. So you may be considering what we pay above and beyond that contract for curriculum work in the summer. And that is paid out on an hourly basis and we look at that first year teacher, for example, if you're doing curriculum work, I believe it's $25 an hour. If you're doing summer school work, working with children, it's $28 per hour. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that if a teacher leaves for leave or personal leave during the year, they're paid at their daily rate of pay, more so than what the substitute teacher rate is.
Thank you. I have one question on the OPS rate was up to 190, and just want to make sure we don't envision any concerns with the high school, they just down losing substitute teachers because of that pay commercial. Obviously, but it is markedly higher than our rate.
It is markedly higher, and keep in mind with the articles that are out, not only are they looking for substitute teachers, they're looking for 200 certificated teachers. So we do not sense that we have a problem.
Any further discussion? Jody, please call the roll.
Kara,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Valerie.
Yes.
Motion carries. Now, we'll take action on the student fee policy. Again, the hearing we had earlier was to review and take public comment on the next three items on our agenda. First of which is student fees. Dr. Hawk presented on student fees. Any other, so there's a motion before the board.
I move to reaffirm the district's student fee policy 504.19, student fees and approve all fees associated with said policy for the 2022 and 23 school year.
Thank you, Kara. I will second that. Any further discussion on the student fees policy? Jody, please call the roll.
Heather,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Kara.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, we will take action to reaffirm the parent involvement policy. Again, presented in the hearing, and a motion is before the board.
I move to reaffirm the district's parent involvement policy number 1005.03, parental involvement in the schools to be readopted without alteration.
Second.
Thank you, Valerie, and a second from Heather. Any discussion? Jody, please call the roll.
Kara,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Tim,
No.
Valerie.
Yes.
Motion carries. Finally, we'll take action and reaffirm the bullying policy. I move to reaffirm the district's bullying policy, 504.20, be readopted without alteration.
Second.
Thank you, Allison. Is there discussion on this item?
Yes.
I'd like to read it. The bullying prevention policy. The board recognizes the negative impact that bullying has on student health, welfare, safety, and the school's learning environment and prohibits such behavior. Bullying is defined as any ongoing pattern of physical, verbal, or electronic abuse on school grounds, in a vehicle owned, leased, or contracted by a school, being used for a school purpose by a school employee or his or her designee, at a designated school bus stop, or at a school-sponsored activity or school-sponsored athletic events. Bullying may constitute grounds for detention, suspension, expulsion, or mandatory reassignment, subject to state and federal statutes and the district's student discipline and due process procedures. Every report of alleged bullying that can be interpreted at the outset to fall within the protection of laws against discrimination shall be handled as a joint concurrent investigation until all allegations and coordinated with the full participation of the compliance officer and Title IX coordinator. If in the course of an ongoing bullying investigation, potential issues of discrimination are identified,
the Title IX coordinator shall be promptly notified, and the investigation shall be conducted jointly and concurrently to address the issues of alleged discrimination as well as the incidents of alleged bullying. It shall be the responsibility of the superintendent to implement appropriate programs or procedures for the purpose of educating students regarding bullying prevention. This policy shall be reviewed annually according to Nebraska Statute 79-2, 137. There's a cross-reference policy 505 under student discipline. I'd like to acknowledge this with my colleagues and all of those in the district that care about our students and the, might I say, soft skills that we try and teach. Ongoing in this definition is left up to interpretation. This is a federal definition that is handed down to state, that is handed down to districts. And while it is mandated to be discussed annually, there are not changes that happen with this policy per se. One could have an ongoing bully to one other student, or one could have an ongoing bully to several other students. But again, that is left to interpretation. I like to acknowledge that the Board of Education has continued to talk about bullying policy and continues to approve this policy without alterations since I can remember. I do commend the district on the work that is done on policies and procedures that looks more into how we can be accepting of all students. Yet the ways that we track bullying, behavior infractions, or whatever else you want to call it, is up to our discretion. I think it's important that we know that everyone knows a bully, and at some point, everyone has been a bully, whether it's with those under your own roof, those in the grocery store, those in traffic, or those in the classroom. When people are different, people can be bullied because we look at one another uninformed and we speak up or we don't. Objective evaluation is complicated when one is dealing with emotions and social emotional learning. And numbers don't always mix. So this blanket policy required by an annual mandate brought down to us from our federal policies, once again, will be accepted without alterations, yet leaves much to be desired as we continue to face bullying in our own community. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Is there other discussion?
I wanted to acknowledge my good colleagues' comments that policies only do so much, and you all have heard me say before that preventing bullying is a pretty low bar in my view. I appreciate that, and we have to do that by statute, we need to do that. But I do appreciate the proactivity of our mission of providing educational opportunities in a safe, and so often we go to that physical safety, but we know the emotional and psychological safety of our students really matters to how well they perform in classrooms. And a caring environment, and back to your good comment on those soft skills that, and those social emotional learning skills that you mentioned, caring is a higher bar than don't bully. And I appreciate our mission statement about that. And that is a cultural piece, that this is the ways that we're gonna live, learn, work, and play together. And I appreciate that the administration has helped us know your proactivity about that. And I know we have to train about what bullying looks like so we can spot it, but let's be all in about creating hopeful and safe and caring environments and continuing to do that, where we continue to honor and recognize the talent of fellow students and our administrators, our teachers, and those so we can have a very productive learning environment. So acknowledging my colleagues' good notes about this policy in particular, and just want to inspire and aspire to continue to create cultures that really do raise that bar on how we care well for others. And that looks different for everybody because, hello, we're all unique individuals. So I really appreciate that. I know we aspire about that, and there is, to plus one that, always room to grow about it as well. I'm complete.
Other discussion or comments? Jody, please call the roll.
Allison,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Heather,
No.
Mark.
Yes. Motion carries. That brings us to the conclusion of our business. We do have an executive session contemplated for the purpose of a strategy session to discuss potential land acquisition. We do not expect action coming out of that executive session. So before we part company with motion here, I would thank those of you who attended this evening's meeting. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for August the 8th, currently scheduled for 6 p.m. Back in this room. With that, I would move to have the board go into executive session at 7:20 for the purpose of a strategy session with respect to potential land acquisition, as an executive session is clearly necessary for the protection of the public interest.
Second.
Thank you, Tim. Jody, please call the roll.
Allison,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Mark.
Yes. This board is in executive session. Again, thank you.